Hello and welcome to this retrospective look inside issue number 366 of Girl magazine from the 13th of February 1988. Now I'll admit I'm going out on a limb here with this, as I know that only about 9.5% of my viewership are female, and I'm pretty sure this video is going to bomb, but I've been wanting to cover something like this for quite a while, as there's relatively little nostalgic coverage out there of old girls magazines, so there's a good chance that those who do enjoy this video will probably appreciate it all the more, regardless of how many views it gets. Girl magazine was published by IPC Magazines Limited between 1981 and 1990, and around that time they were also putting out other popular children's comics and magazines, including 2000 AD and Buster. There was another title that shared the same name though, published by Hotline Press in the 50s and 60s, but the one that we're looking at today is the 1980s version. The magazine basically follows a similar format to mags like Look In, Fast Forward and Smash Hits, but with content that was squarely aimed at girls, like photo stories, problem pages and hunky pop pin-ups of course. This particular issue comes with a free gift, which amazingly is still attached to the cover 37 years later. We get 4 free pop stickers, although I'm not sure Philip Schofield could be considered a pop star by any measure. However, we also get 5-star Terence Trent D'Arby and Boy George in sticker form too, so that's compensation enough I guess. Elsewhere on the cover, in addition to the date and issue number at the top, the price, 32p, and the main title, were treated to summaries of some of the content to come, including a new serial comic strip called Gran, a fashion article about denims, and the promise of a George Michael pin-up poster, which I can confirm has not been torn out of this issue, so we'll get to see that later. Girl Talk on the inside front cover is the intro page with an editorial welcome in the grey box from Sally and Kerry, who've apparently taken down the Christmas decorations in the office and put up pop stickers all over the place, and they're inviting us to find time to send in our letters, drawings and photos. Speaking of which, some of those letters, drawings and photos are shown on this page, and my favourite has to be Cheryl from Middlesex in the bottom right there. Apparently her little sister said she'd hurt her thumb with an F, so she corrected her. Thumb, she said. Yes, said her little sister, and I hurt my fingers too, with a TH. I also have to read out from the pink messages box in the bottom right a message to Anna from her brother Mark, thanking her for letting him read all her girl magazines, and he bets she never thought she'd see her name in the mag. A brave little chap there, it has to be said, for admitting to reading a girl's comic. A 4-page photo strip begins on page 3 called Hooray Henry. Katie, who lives next to the municipal park, is moaning to her mum about kids kicking footballs over their garden fence, but her mum's more interested in dolling herself up before Jeff from work comes round to fix up her kitchen units. Kate misses her dad since her parents got divorced when she was 9, and she goes out to get away from her mum's fawning over Jeff. When she comes back, she sees them kissing and thinks the idea of her mum having a boyfriend is a bit weird. It's not long before Jeff starts to make himself at home, and although Katie gets on okay with him, she's not entirely happy with the situation and misses the time that she used to be able to spend with her mum. To make things worse, Jeff is always boasting about how talented and special his son is, Henry, and Katie really hopes she doesn't ever have to meet him. To her dismay, her mum organises a meet-up on Saturday to introduce Henry, but on the day Katie bugs out and goes for a walk around the football field instead. She bumps into a lad called Russell and they strike up a conversation. Katie gets a chance to moan about Jeff and his annoying son Henry, and after she's had a bit of a rant, Russell fesses up and admits that he's Henry, but he hates the name and goes by his middle name Russell, and he explains that he's not all that his dad cracks him up to be. Turns out he's here for the same reason as her, to avoid meeting this wonderful Katie that her mum's always banging on about. So the two of them head back off to the house after realising that they'd got completely the wrong impressions about each other, and they're both pleasantly surprised to discover that they can actually get on quite well. Page 7 on the right starts with 15 top tips for looking good and feeling great, including ideas for saving money on makeup, using lip balm in cold weather, and how to effectively apply blusher, as well as basics like brushing your teeth regularly and getting plenty of sleep. The black and white advert next to that details some of the books in the Nancy Drew Files murder mystery collection published by Collins. Page 8, a full-page advert for Tampax, which tells the story from an unnamed girl's point of view about a trip out with her friends Tracy, Nikki and Lisa, as seen in the photo. She's the one in the middle. She's explaining the advantages of slender tampons over sanitary towels and inviting us to send off to Tampax for a free sample, which also comes with a free booklet about periods. And over on page 9, a full-page pull-out poster of Tom Cruise, who around that time would have been appearing in cinemas in the films Cocktail and Rain Man. Over on page 10, the start of the 4-page photo story that was teased on the front cover, Wonder Gran, and I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a riff on Super Gran, the popular TV show that aired in the 3 years leading up to 1988, but it may well have been the inspiration, as in this story, Emma gets a chemistry set for her birthday, and after a few arguments with her sister about skin creams, makeup and bad chemical smells, she decides to ditch the instructions and make an experimental potion of her own, and her Gran ends up inadvertently using it to soak her false teeth. The next morning, after putting her teeth in, Gran is looking a lot more sprightly, and Emma starts to panic about what the chemical cocktail on Gran's teeth might do to her. The strip ends on a cliffhanger and a promise that we'll find out what's happened to Gran next week, so sadly we'll never know, because I don't have issue 367 to find out from, so if you remember this story, do put us out of our misery and post it in the comments, eh? Hotline on pages 14 and 15 gives us the lowdown on the latest pop and celebrity gossip, with a quick quiz thrown in for good measure. The Name Game Fame quiz lists the former names of 10 pop stars before they became widely known by their stage names. So for example, number 3, William Broad, was the original name of the rocket in the picture there, Billy Idol. The answers are in a tiny little grey box on the opposite page, so I'll bring that up on screen briefly so you can check the answers. The one I was most interested in was number 6, Derek Dick. You'd have to change that name really, wouldn't you? It's Fish from the band Marillion. Mind you, I'm not sure if Fish is much of an improvement really. We're at the halfway point, and that can mean only one thing, the pull-out pin-up poster. And look at that, it's George Michael at the peak of his fame, sporting a guitar, a leather jacket, aviator glasses, perfectly coiffed hair, designer stubble, and something you couldn't really get away with now, trimmed furry chest hair. Moving on, it's another photo strip over 3 pages this time, and this one's also serialised. We appear to be in the middle of an ongoing kidnapping mystery in Annie's place. Mysterious, threatening phone calls, a friend who's been arrested after a kidnapping attempt by her father, and accusation of stealing someone's boyfriend, with Annie at the centre getting confused and upset. The story ends with a troubling conversation in a cafe, and to be honest, I think I'm more confused than Annie, and I get the feeling you'd need to have read the other parts of this story to make any sense of it. Patty's World is a 3-page hand-drawn comic strip about a young woman's dreams of becoming a famous model. In this part of the ongoing story, Patty and her friend are trying to scrounge money together for lessons in professional makeup application. They both kind of fancy the guy who runs the course, but he appears to already have a girlfriend, and potential rivalries emerge when Patty's mum announces that they have a new lodger, and it turns out to be Greg, the guy who runs the makeup course. Another serialised strip this, and the story continues next week when apparently there'll be a surprise in store for Patty and Greg. This fashion article about denim, which got that brief mention on the front cover, provides tips on how to potentially save money and look great in your old denim jeans, jackets and skirts. Ultimately, the only money-saving tip here, though, is to dig out your old clothes and combine them with new ones, as it's basically a feature promoting clothing for sale in various high street shops including Fenwick, Sock Shop, Dorothy Perkins and Chelsea Girl. Over on page 26, it's If You Need Help, the Agony Aunt style problem page. I remember when I used to sneak a peek at my sister's magazines, the problem pages were a fascinating insight into other people's problems, and occasionally quite helpful if it was about something that I was also struggling with. Some of the problems featured here including a fear of injections, getting picked on by parents, and being frightened of approaching someone you fancy. There are also 2 adverts for stamp collecting kits here in the bottom left as well, which, as I often point out, were extremely prolific in magazines for youngsters at that time, and a strip down the right covers some of the content you can expect in next week's issue of Girl magazine. More free pop stickers, fashion tips, pin-up posters and lots more hitting newsagent shelves on Saturday the 20th of February 1988. Baby Love, a 4-page photo strip, begins on page 27 about Dave, who's found a baby abandoned in the park, accompanied by a letter explaining that the child is in danger and has to be kept hidden until the mother can return, and naturally Dave and his friend Lynn decide to keep the baby a secret. Cue a lot of sneaking around and being paranoid about strange men hanging around in vans, until this part of the story ends with them getting busted by Lynn's mum, who demands to know what's going on. Lord knows what would have happened next week, as sadly we'll never know as the story continues in next week's issue, which I still don't have, so we'll have to use our imagination. You can finish the story yourself in the comments if you want. The last page before the back cover is a mishmash of quizzes, horoscopes and a promo for a hair colour treatment called Shaders, down there in the bottom right. If you cut out the token and send it off, you could win one of 200 sachets of this new hair product, which usually retails for 39p. The quizzes, fact line, name call and photo finish give us a true or false questionnaire about Terence Trent D'Arby, the name of a male model and singer hidden in the anagram, Kick Me Nan, and an inverted photo of the lead singer from a famous pop band to identify. The answers are upside down in those grey boxes, which I've flipped over on screen for you, just in case you're dying to know whether or not Terence Trent D'Arby wears contact lenses. the back cover and another quick look at two of those free stickers again, we get a Bananarama poster to put up on our bedroom walls. And I have to shout out a massive thank you to whoever originally owned this copy of Girl Magazine number 366 for your restraint in not tearing out all the posters and cutting out that token, so that we can all enjoy this magazine time capsule in its complete state now in 2026 and beyond. And if you think that might have been you, there is one little clue on the front cover. The number 185 has been written in red ink at the top, presumably by the newsagent, which may be a house number. So if that is significant to you, stick your hand up in the comments, as this could well be the very issue that you bought back in 1988. Now, I normally put in a featured comment section around about here in my videos, and I did ask for your input on this one, but as I suspected, there's not really a lot of appreciation for this publication amongst my current viewership. However, I can share a couple of comments, including from my wife and my sister, thanks guys, who both had memories of the magazines that they used to have when they were growing up. Elaine on Facebook doesn't remember Girl Magazine, but she suspects she would have been too old for it at the time it was produced. She does, however, remember Jackie, which she bought on a semi-regular basis, which had a glossy look and feel to it, and covered a good variety of articles and topics. Liz Armstrong on Facebook forgot about Girl Magazine and thinks she had it on order delivered from the local shop, at least until she felt too grown up for it and progressed on to just 17. She also mentioned Photo Love and Blue Jeans as examples of old girls magazines that we might remember. And last but not least, El Ripmo on YouTube threw me a bone and asked his sister if she remembered Girl Magazine, which she didn't. But she does remember Just 17, Smash Hits, Lookin', Empire, Shout, Big, and Bliss, and possibly some others too, depending on what mood she was in. Just 17 apparently was the best of the bunch, as it was more grown up and didn't use babyish language. So, as I said earlier, hopefully of the few viewers that do watch this, some of you will get a real kick out of viewing this vintage issue of Girl Magazine from 1988. And even if you don't remember this mag, maybe you have memories of other girls' magazines and comics, like the ones we've mentioned. If you'd like to share those memories, post them in the comments below, and we can have a chat about it there. And if you'd like to be featured in a future Retrospectives video, follow me on my various social media platforms, where I'll be asking for your memories whenever I'm after comments to feature. We'll finish off now with a closer look at the covers of those other 4 issues of Girl Magazine that were briefly shown in the intro, but first I'd like to thank everyone who shared their comments, to thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course to thank you all for watching Retrospectives.